Hello and welcome. I'm Karan Seth and this is your Business Bulletin for Monday the 13th of July. India's inflation number is out, the markets have staged a dramatic comeback, a heavyweight earnings week has begun, and the World Cup semi-final lineup is locked. 6 minutes, let's go. The story of the day, inflation is back above target. India's retail inflation accelerated to 4.38% in June, up sharply from 3.93% in May, higher than the 4.3% economists expected, and above the RBI's 4% target for the first time in 16 months. And this was not driven by just one volatile item. Food inflation climbed to 5.32% from 4.78% in May. Transport inflation surged to 4.31% from just 1.75% after multiple fuel price increases and fresh pressure from the West Asian conflict. So the inflation story is no longer confined to the vegetable market. It's moving from your kitchen to your commute and potentially into the wider economy. But here's the number beneath the headline. The latest available wholesale inflation figure for May was an extraordinary 9.68%. The June WPI number comes tomorrow. That means upstream prices facing producers are still running at more than twice the rate consumers are seeing. Now, that does not mean that retail inflation will automatically jump to 9%, but it does mean companies face a difficult choice: absorb those costs and sacrifice margins, or gradually pass them on through higher prices. Tomorrow's WPI print will tell us whether the inflation pipeline is beginning to cool or continuing to fill. And what does today's number mean for your EMIs? Well, the RBI kept the repo rate unchanged at 5.25% in June and raised its inflation projection for the financial year to 5.1%. One CPI number does not automatically trigger a rate increase in August. But let us be clear, the near-term rate cut conversation is now effectively over. The debate has shifted from when will rates fall to will the RBI eventually have to raise them. A rate hike is not guaranteed. The RBI may still watch the monsoon, crude oil, and the next few inflation prints. But today's number has made the inflation risk real, immediate, and impossible to ignore. Now to the markets, and what a turnaround. The Sensex and Nifty were down almost 1% earlier today as oil surged and the US-Iran conflict intensified. But by the closing bell, the entire fall had been recovered. The Sensex finished 47 points higher at 76,616, while the Nifty ended almost flat but positive at 24,211. And the rescue operation came from technology. The IT index surged 3.6%. TCS jumped 5.4%, while HCLTech gained almost 5% ahead of its quarterly results. That is an important market signal. Investors are not buying everything. They're moving selectively into companies where earnings, deals, and AI-linked revenues may justify the valuations. This is not broad-based euphoria, it's a tactical earnings trade. And tonight, HCLTech faces the test. After TCS reported a $9.5 billion order book and annualized AI revenue of $2.6 billion, the question is simple. Was that momentum specific to TCS, or is Indian IT finally seeing a wider revival? For HCLTech, watch four numbers: revenue growth, operating margins, deal wins, and management's full-year guidance. Globally, major American banks begin reporting this week. ASML reports on Wednesday, while Taiwan Semiconductor and other AI heavyweights will also be closely watched. By the end of the week, we should know whether the AI trade has enough earnings behind it or whether expectations have once again run ahead of reality. Now to the world stage, three stories. Number one, West Asia, oil, and India's inflation problem. Renewed strikes between the United States and Iran, along with Tehran's claim that it had again closed the Strait of Hormuz, pushed Brent crude back towards $78 a barrel. The rupee closed at 95.62 against the dollar, its weakest level in more than a month. For India, that creates a dangerous combination. A weaker currency makes imported oil more expensive, and higher oil prices then add another layer of inflation. But here's the extraordinary long-term headline. The International Energy Agency still projects global oil demand to decline by approximately 1 million barrels a day in 2026, the first annual fall since the pandemic. So the oil market is fighting two opposing forces: immediate fear over supply and longer-term demand destruction caused by months of disruption and high prices. The second story, Wall Street and the AI contradiction. The S&P 500 closed Friday at 7,575, gaining 1.2% over the week. Meta jumped 6% on Friday, and investors continued paying a premium for companies tied to artificial intelligence. The biggest example was South Korean chipmaker SK Hynix. The US listed shares surged roughly 14% on debut, following a record $26.5 billion offering. But today the mood reversed sharply. SK Hynix Korean shares plunged, South Korea's technology-heavy market fell heavily, and investors were forced to confront a difficult question. Is there still an AI earnings boom, or has it also become an AI valuation bubble? Our third story, the Rupee and the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve minutes show that inflation concerns are growing, with some officials openly supporting higher interest rates if price pressures remain persistent. Fed Chair Kevin Walsh testifies before Congress this week, and every word will matter. Because India is currently caught between two pressures. The RBI may need to remain firm because domestic inflation is rising, while the Federal Reserve may also keep American interest rates elevated. Add expensive crude oil, and that creates sustained pressure on the rupee. The currency may not dominate today's headlines, but it could become the economic story that affects everything else. And finally, the World Cup. England are through after beating Norway 2-1 in extra time, with Jude Bellingham scoring both goals. Argentina survived their own extra time battle, defeating 10 men Switzerland 3-1. Well, Lionel Messi did not score, but he provided a crucial assist as the defending champions marched on. And the semi-final lineup is spectacular. France versus Spain, then England versus Argentina. For the first time since the FIFA rankings began, the world's 4 highest ranked teams have all reached the World Cup semi-finals. No outsiders, no surprise package. Just 4 football superpowers and 2 places in the final. So here's the takeaway tonight. Inflation has crossed the RBI's target. The rate cut debate has been pushed aside. Earnings must now justify the market's optimism. And oil and the rupee remain the 2 quiet risks that could change the entire economic picture. The headlines tell you what happened. The numbers underneath tell you what is coming. And that's exactly what we do here. Tomorrow, India's wholesale inflation number will be out, and we'll examine whether producers are still absorbing the shock, or whether higher prices are now heading directly towards the consumer. So subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Karan Seth. Jai Hind.